Very excited to have our next guest on. Gary Washburn covers the NBA for the Boston Globe. National writer, covers the Celtics, covers the entire league. Very excited because earlier in the show, we gave you the four options that Adam Silver and the NBA have narrowed down what a resume to play would look like. And now to discuss those options, what it looks like, what would be the most realistic, what is the best chance of getting a full playoff schedule in and keeping it fair. So we'll have Gary on to discuss all that. Gary, really appreciate the time. How are you this morning?
Very good, very good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on and giving us a few minutes here, Gary. And obviously, I want to get to basketball here in a little bit, but obviously, what's going on in our world these last few days and last week, obviously, is first and foremost. And so I'm curious, someone who lives in Boston, who is ingrained with the Celtics, Jaylen Brown going down to Atlanta, driving down from Boston to Atlanta. What was it like? What does it mean to see a player of his stature, an NBA player, drive down, go out of his way, not just use his platform, on social media to promote change and to promote and support the cause, but actually go down to Atlanta and be there, lockstep with the demonstrators in Atlanta in his hometown. What was it like to see? What does it mean for a player of his stature to not just, basically talk the talk, but to walk the walk?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that, is not surprising for Jaylen. He's a very aware, very intelligent, astute guy in terms of his social awareness, social activity. He's a leader. He's a guy who definitely wants to lead by example and set an example for younger people like himself to understand the world around them. The world is not only Twitter and Instagram followers and social media and who's looks great on the red carpet or who has the new hit single out and knows the latest dancer on TikTok, but knows that there's a world around them where some people aren't being treated fairly, some people are being murdered, killed, abused on a daily basis, and the world keeps kind of going. And so it doesn't surprise me that Jaylen is a person who wants to let people know and set awareness and set by example that we need to do something about this, and we need to be a society that calls out action is all that's about action, and that's about awareness and about fairness. So this doesn't surprise me at all. He's a very intelligent kid. He's already part of the Players Association in his fourth season. He's a guy who probably will one day be the union president, and lead his brethren, all 450 players eventually. So this doesn't surprise me at all. I'm proud of him given that he's only 23 years old.
Right, like you say, extremely young, and on social media, he was putting out there that he doesn't have all the answers. He's very young, but he felt like his voice has to be heard. I still think it's very inspirational. I'm curious, have you talked to either, current Celtics players or other players across the NBA after seeing what Jaylen did, like you said, going out there and actually being part of a change? Have you seen any other players maybe inspired to, instead of just, again, going on social media and tweeting and putting out there their support, actually taking some action? I saw Enes Kanter was out in the streets, I believe in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. So have you seen or, at least have talked to any other players on the Celtics or otherwise in the NBA that have taken action because they saw Jaylen Brown do what he did and take action as well?
Well, I don't know if they just because of Jaylen, but I think there's certain players in this league that are very socially aware, and I don't think we pay enough attention to that. So there's been various players, obviously, on social media, but if you look at someone like ex-NBA player Steven Jackson going up to Minneapolis for the press conference, Karl Anthony Towns, who literally recently just lost his mother to COVID-19. I mean, he could be under a cave right now in crying, and no one and everyone would understand. I mean, this is a guy who lost his mother before the age of 60 to COVID-19. He's a very young man, just lost his parent, and he was out there in Minneapolis offering support and at the press conference. So I think that there's more professional athletes, especially NBA players. These guys are young African-American men, most of them, obviously not all of them, are young African-American men who have probably had their issues with law enforcement one way or the other over their years. They've been stopped driving a nice car, or they've gone somewhere and had the police stereotype them, or, and honestly, too, they probably experience their share of good cops. I mean, these guys, I think people forget, these guys also have security guards. These guys also have people who secure them who are former police officers. You know, they know good that there's good cops. I don't think anyone is saying that there's just 100% bad cops. A lot of these guys work the arenas. When they retire, they're former officers. They work team security, and so they know that there's good cops. But I think that a lot of these players understand that young African American men, especially, and there's women too, obviously, are being targeted, are being stereotyped, are being judged. I think we saw the incident with the woman in Central Park calling the police on a bird watcher.
Right.
I just think it's come to a head, and I think that if you're any type of have any type of awareness, you're gonna say something. And I think a lot of these players understand it's time to step up and say something.
So I'm curious with that then Gary, do you think it's, and obviously it's 2020 has been what it is, and obviously the corona, it's no positive, right? That the league has been shut down the way it is. But I'm curious, timing, right? Timing is almost everything sometimes. Now that there is no basketball currently, now that there really is no other distractions out there, is this almost, could you see change actually coming about and things actually happening in a positive way because now everyone can kind of put their focus on this? Like I said, you have players that if this was going on while the season was happening, Jaylen Brown isn't going to be able to go to Atlanta. You're going to have other players that aren't going to be able to put their voice out and put their focus on actually finding a cause and changing for the good because they have a season there. And this is the middle of playoffs. You have conference finals, the finals coming up, especially for a team like the Celtics who, you think will be in the playoffs in the long run here. I'm curious, is this almost, a nice chance that actually the message could actually stick because everyone can put their focus on the true issue at heart instead of getting distracted by sports or anything else if the coronavirus wasn't around?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and ironically, that is probably true that the fact that these guys aren't up to anything right now, they're just working out at their homes or, if their practice facilities are open, they're going to their practice facilities and working out individually. And they have time to I mean, I think a lot of these guys have probably done a lot of different things over the last 3 months, whether it be, study, maybe try to enroll in some classes or spend obviously extra time with family or take up a new hobby or do something different. Some of these guys, have different interests besides basketball. And I think for all of us, I mean, if you haven't done something different over the last 3 months, whether it be, have take up a new hobby or do something, housewives or do something that you didn't get a chance to do over the last couple of years because you've been so busy with work. I think all of us have done something like that, or taken up a hobby or finished something that we had been long wanting to finish or things like that, clean out your attic, whatever it is. I mean, so I think these players have definitely paid attention to the society. I think with the COVID, you can't help but see what's going on in the world. There's no more, I'm young, this doesn't affect me stuff. Like this affects everybody. No one can go out. No one can work. No one can do things or, except essential workers. So I think even the youngest people, high school kids aren't graduating the traditional way. There's no prom, So this has affected kids from everybody from 0 to 92, as the Christmas song says, right? So I think these players are now aware. And yeah, the fact that now they're not playing and they can see this and they can focus and they can talk to people and they're not, basketball isn't their central figure in their life, the central activity. I think, yeah, it does allow them to pay more attention and to be more socially active. Obviously, if this happened in the summer, they'd probably be out because it'd be off season. But yeah, I think there is something to the fact that they're not doing what they usually do, so they have time to put more focus on things that probably are important to them too.
So Gary Washburn, national NBA writer for the Boston Globe. Follow Gary on Twitter, at G Washburn Globe. So Gary, you just hit on it. This is the time, obviously, unfortunate that it is because of the coronavirus. We're all at home. We're picking up different hobbies, doing different things we normally wouldn't do. So, what's the hobby in your life then that you've picked up that either you've worked on or that you had to distract you?
Wow, that's interesting. I was able to finish a book that I've been working on. Just spend time with family and friends. Do Zoom calls, talk to people that I probably honestly would not have talked to otherwise, or you might have sent a quick text message to, and now you're sending them, you're contacting through Zoom calls. Uh, just a lot of things, doing stuff around the house, things that you're like, okay, let me organize this, let me figure this one out, and you always say, well, I'll do it in the summer, and then the summer comes and you're traveling and you're out at the beach or you're doing your summer stuff. Then all of a sudden, here comes the fall, and you start working again. Work picks up, and you're like, okay, I'll do it next year. So I think this has allowed a lot of us to kind of, do things. I mean, I've never seen, and I know you're, young guy, Ryan, but when I was growing up, people jogged around the neighborhood. There was no the the gym wasn't as popular. People used to run at their local high schools, run around the blocks and stuff like that. Now I see that more than I have in 25 years. You see people unable to go to the gym and they just run the neighborhoods. To me, that's kind of refreshing to see people do things that, because we don't have the resources that we had, obviously 4 or 5 months ago. The world has been turned upside down. And I think hopefully we learn something from this, and we keep some of those basic things that we've picked up and we don't take for granted. Um, the things like we don't take sports for granted. We don't take uh, being able to go outside and go for a nice walk or go to the grocery store, or go do things that we would usually do that we can't do right now or haven't able to do it. We're just starting to do again. Hopefully we don't take that for granted anymore.